For months, I've been craving a space to go deeper into writing and publishing children's books in midlife. A place to figure out how to turn the story in your heart into a finished book, to ask questions and to connect with people who get it. At first, I didn't plan to build something like this, but now I can't stop thinking about it. What if there was a space where we could turn ideas and memories into beautiful children's stories, learn the simple steps to write and publish without overwhelm, support each other and stay accountable until the book is finished? Because writing your first book in midlife shouldn't feel lonely or confusing. It should feel possible. A space designed for growth, for support, and real momentum toward writing and publishing your first children's book. Without all the confusion, the burnout, or constant second guessing that sometimes goes with a huge undertaking like this. The more I visualize this, the more I believe this could be something truly meaningful. And here is the honest part. I don't have every piece figured out yet. That is why I want to build it with you, not for you. I want it to reflect exactly what you need as a woman in midlife who has a story worth sharing with the next generation. So here is the ask. If you join as a founding member, you get access and a seriously discounted rate, 50% off, locked in for life, even when the price increases later. And it will. You will help shape the direction from day one, and your insights will help us create something extraordinary. Inside the community, we will focus on things like turning your life experiences into meaningful children's stories, a simple step-by-step path from idea to manuscript and then to published book. Accountability and momentum so your book actually gets finished. No perfection required here. No publishing industry gatekeepers. Just real progress together. We co-create something impactful, intentional, and totally aligned with what matters most to you. Right now, this is just the beginning. The content isn't finished, and some of the best pieces will come straight from you and the founding group. From now through launch, we will brainstorm, refine, and bring this whole thing to life, working side by side. If you are in and want to be part of this great community from the start, DM me with the word ready by Monday, March 23rd, and I will send you the scoop. I'm so grateful to be in this community, and I can't wait to build something epic with you.
Mother, an empty nester who has been enormously busy for years, doing all kinds of things and getting it all done, right? Now suddenly no children at home, chooses a goal to do something like write a book and isn't making any progress on it and says, I'm just not productive. I'm not a productive person. Well, the fact is that all they have to do is look at the last 18 years with their children to see how productive they were. It's just different. And so, there's a necessity to taking care of our children, right? We need to do it. It's there's necessity. But when it comes to, for instance, writing a book, it may not feel like necessity.
Yeah.
And so you have to up the level of necessity to where you feel like somebody needs this book, or this is a goal I have that will make me feel fulfilled, and therefore there's need because I want to fulfill this, right?
Welcome to the Minute Mastery Podcast, a conversational productivity and time management podcast where busy authors and entrepreneurs are inspired to create time for what truly matters. I'm your host, Ngozi Edema. I'm a time management coach, writer, and entrepreneur. Here, you are encouraged to turn your minutes into milestones and to create at least 1 hour a day working on your goals without feeling overwhelmed. When a child goes to school for the very first time, we often talk about how we feel. Mama's daycare was born from that quiet moment when Mama is suddenly left alone and our little helper is gone. In this story, we meet Nene, a bright, imaginative little girl who is excited to start kindergarten. But then she begins to worry. What will her mama do all day without her? So Nene does what children do best. She imagines a solution. She creates a daycare just for mama, right across the streets from her school, filled with fun, comforting activities to keep mama happy until they are together again. This book is an invitation for parents and children to talk about separation, about worries, about change, and about how love doesn't disappear when routines change. Mama's Daycare helps spark imagination, build empathy, open gentle conversations about big transitions. It's a story for children starting school and for the mamas learning to let go. Just a little. I hope this book becomes a comforting read for your family during this season of change. Mama's Daycare is available in the Kindle store and on paperback cover. I am so excited to welcome Nina Amir. She is known for helping writers succeed as authors and helping others create what matters most to become someone who can take the action that they require to achieve their goals. And I knew immediately that her voice would be powerful to our conversation, to this audience, because many of you are in a season where you're trying to write a children's book or any other book, and you're trying to prove to yourself that you can. Nina, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to have this conversation.
Thank you so much for coming. I am so passionate with this conversation. Let me give you a bit of context here. I started my own journey as a children's book author in my late 40s. And at the time, I thought I was too late. I've missed my window of opportunity. So I was a stay-at-home mom who had a dream, but I needed help to move me from point A to point B in my journey. And sometimes we confuse a lack of clarity with perhaps, I am not supposed to be doing this. I am too old. I am not tech savvy like my younger counterparts. Or a lot more excuses that we give to ourselves for not achieving what we want to achieve. So in your experience, what habits and mindset shifts are most important for someone who feels they are starting very late?
The first mindset shift is to not see yourself as too late, like to stop telling yourself that. So our mindset is basically where our mental set point is, what thoughts we're thinking continuously. And a lot of that is our brain function. But if you're thinking, I'm too late, then that will be your reality. And that's what you have to overcome. So first off, change that thought to I'm right on time. This is the perfect time for me to write a book. I mean, look, I still have probably, 3 to 5 or more books in me, and I'm 65. And I had a 5-year break, and I felt like I was falling behind, getting too late for me. But so many authors start late in life, later than 40 for sure. So that's the first thing, is to really watch your mental chatter, because that is your mindset. And so you want to say, I can do it. It's never too late. I'm right on time. It's divine timing, whatever works for you. And I can, like the technology part of it. I struggle with technology too. And I have overcome most of that with the mindset of I can do it, or I can figure it out, right? I can figure it out, or I can get help. If I can't do it, I can find help. And that is a way different mindset than I can't do it. I don't understand technology, so I might as well give up. Now, in terms of habits, our thought patterns are habits, right? So that mental chatter is a habit that you have to break. It's not a positive one. So you have to create a new positive mental chatter habit. And then I would say, to develop the habits, especially since most of the people listening are empty nesters or maybe even new empty nesters, you have to go from, my day revolves around my kids to my day revolves around what is important to me, what matters to me. And so instead of just kind of going helter-skelter through your day or in an unplanned manner, you want to schedule. So I'm a certified high performance coach, and I firmly believe that the more we put things on our calendar, the more likely we are to do them. We have to also have the habit of treating those personal time blocks like a doctor's appointment, where you'll get charged if we miss it, right? Or we at least, at a very minimum, need to reschedule. So today I had a time block on my calendar that actually was for exercise, which is important to me. But I moved it because I was in the midst of something and I wanted to finish that. I wanted to finish it before I came here and recorded with you. And so I just took that exercise block and I moved it to later in the day, but I still will show up for that, right? But in terms of whatever is your goal or your dream that you want to accomplish now that you're an empty nester, you have to have that on the calendar. You have to schedule it and say, this is what I'm doing today.
Thank you. Now, sometimes some of those negative talk that we have with ourselves, is it a product of comparison with other people? What other people are doing, they are doing that and I am not doing that. Is that what makes people to start having such?
Sometimes it's comparison. So-and-so who wrote this book that I loved or my kids loved wrote it when they were only 25, right? So now we're comparing, right? So that's part of it. I think more of it is programming. Somebody told us we weren't a good writer, like we failed an essay in grade school, and the teacher said, you're really not a very good writer. Or we've given up on things in the past and we have a belief that we don't finish what we start. So why bother starting? So I'm a bad writer. Why bother starting? Anything like that. Authors don't make money, which in a lot of cases they don't. So you have people telling you, why are you even putting your time and attention on that if it's not going to bring in money for you? So these are all things we're programmed to believe and to think about, and they stand in our way a lot of the time.
Thank you. So when it comes to creativity, what stops a lot of people from achieving their creative dreams?
Again, their beliefs about themselves, which come from external programming, from our experiences. We have an experience and we interpret it. We're interpreting machines. So we interpret it to mean something about ourselves. And then we go through the rest of our lives believing that's true when actually the interpretation was probably incorrect, right? It probably is false. And so we have to start telling us that we are creative and that we have that if we go after, if we try to create the things we're inspired to create or motivated to create or passionate about, that we can do it. And to let all the past beliefs about ourselves and the programming we have about ourselves, let that go and just follow the inspiration and the motivation and the passion. And so when we feel those, it's the core of who we are, the truth of who we are, pushing us towards creating something new. And we need to remember that.
Thank you. I remember you said something later on. I can't remember how you said it, but it reminded me of a conversation I was having with someone recently that said that flying was not safe. And I said, it's the safest means of transport in the world. And if that same person heard, there was a plane crash somewhere, I said, I told you it's not safe, because they already have a belief. And then they saw something tragic happens. They tie it to an existing belief. And there is nothing you say to that person that will make them change that belief, because they have now seen some validation to that belief. Is there a way someone can break free from that, even though you have those kind of belief systems that, I can't do this? In your experience, have you been able to help anyone break through such belief systems?
Yeah. So it's really important to ask a question that author Byron Katie would talk about all the time. And that is it true? And the issue is that we are seeing it through our lens, right? And so we need help finding proof that it's not true. So if you were to say about like the airplane crash, yes, we're told over and over again that airplanes are the safest way to travel. And yet there have been a lot of plane crashes recently. But the reason we know about those is because they're rare. And so they're, like if there was a plane crash every day, would we hear about it? No. And there are crashes every day, and we don't hear about them unless it's some big pileup on the highway, right? Or due to weather or something like that. The person has to be somewhat open to seeing the other side. But if they're not, in my experience as a coach, if I can show them when that hasn't been true or show them when the opposite was true, then it's helpful. So if we get away from the plane crash one and we talk about someone who maybe has this belief that I never start what I finish. So why I'm going to set up this goal, but why bother? I had a client who said to me, I won't commit to write for even 30 minutes because in the past, I've never done it. So why would I commit to you that I'll write for 30 minutes when I know it's not going to happen? Right? History has shown me it won't happen. So what I said to him was there a time when you followed through on a commitment like that meant something to you? So writing his book meant something to him, but he'd gotten out of the habit of writing and now he believed he couldn't write or write consistently. And so he thought back and he said, when I was in college going for my master's degree, or my PhD, I had to write my thesis. And I finished that. And I wrote every day I had a consistent schedule and I wrote and I got it done. So I said, well, now you have proof that you can do it. Like you sat down and you found the time and you did it. And so, and you were committed and you committed to your professors that you would write this PhD and you did. And so now you have some proof that you actually can write consistently and complete something that you commit to. And so he went away and he still didn't really want to commit to 30 minutes of writing. So we started with 5 minutes. And of course, 5 minutes became 10 minutes, became 15 minutes, became 30 minutes. And he now has a published book. But that was because he shifted his belief about himself when he could see that it wasn't really true, that there were times in his life when he committed to something and he followed through, or committed to his writing and followed through.
Thank you. Looking at one's past success story can help you. If I have succeeded in that in the past, I can still succeed again with this project. Yeah.
Because for instance, you have proof. For instance, a mother, an empty nester who has been enormously busy for years, doing all kinds of things and getting it all done, right? Now suddenly no children at home, chooses a goal to do something like write a book and isn't making any progress on it and says, I'm just not productive. I'm not a productive person. Well, the fact is that all they have to do is look at the last 18 years with their children to see how productive they were. It's just different. And so, there's a necessity to taking care of our children, right? We need to do it. There's necessity. But when it comes to, for instance, writing a book, it may not feel like necessity.
Yeah.
And so you have to up the level of necessity to where you feel like somebody needs this book, or this is a goal I have that will make me feel fulfilled. And therefore there's need because I want to fulfill this. Right?
Yeah. Thank you. I remember someone said, if you're writing a children's book, think of a particular child in your head. Think of one person and say, I am writing for just this one person. And if you can picture somebody that you're writing it for, I would love so and so person to read this book. It can give you that purpose in life to just carry on doing it. Because like a parent, you said it's a necessity. I wake up early in the mornings when my daughter is going to school because she has to go to school at 8. And on the days she's not going, I know that I don't have that obligation to get up so early to make sure that she's out of the door at 8 o'clock. So it's a necessity for me to ensure that happens. But if that isn't there, I wouldn't do it. So if there's something, there must be a purpose, a why somewhere that pushes us to do something. And once we can identify what that is, it gives us that momentum to move.
Just besides writing for one person, what I often tell writers, especially the nonfiction writers, but this would pertain to children's book writers, is that there's more than one person. Like, who needs your book? You need to know when you write for that person. But how many people are actually out there that need the book? And what happens if they don't get it? Like, when did they need it? Well, most people will say they needed it yesterday.
Yesterday.
Right? You're on this 2-year track to get your book published and they're still waiting and they still need it. And so when you can access that sense of there are people out there waiting for my book, or there are children out there who would benefit from this book and they're not benefiting from it because I haven't gotten it out there yet, necessity level becomes much, much higher.
Thank you. So what is one essential ingredient to creating success as a writer? I know success looks different for everybody.
Right. So the first thing is to know what success looks like for you. So success as a writer could mean just getting the books written and published. However you do it, doesn't matter how many people read it, and so you have to know that that's success for you. If you want to be a New York Times bestselling author, success is quite different, right? And so I think that's the first step, is just knowing what success means for you. What was the other part of what was in talking about that, I lost sight of the actual question.
Yeah, well, just say what is the essential ingredient to creating success as a writer?
So that's number one, is knowing what it means for you. And number two would be to, once you know what success means to you or looks like to you, then you want to adopt the identity of somebody who has already achieved that success, because then you can examine what their mindsets and habits are. And when you adopt that identity of, I'm this successful author in this way that I believe, is successful, then your mindsets and habits will just align with that. But you have to know what that looks like and what someone with that success, what their habits and mindset are. What do they do? What are the actions they take, or what did they take to become successful? And then you can do that.
Thank you. I also visualize what my outcome will be. And the more I visualize what my end product, where is the place I want to be? Like you said, looking at someone who has achieved that goal before, I see what they have done and I said, I want to be that person. I want to be there myself. And I keep visualizing it, and it helps me to draw like a roadmap to getting me to that point. And before long, I've traveled that distance, that route several times over, and it helps me to get to my destination eventually.
Yes. Your brain doesn't know the difference between visualizing and what you actually do. And so the more you visualize it, the more you create the neural pathways in your brain that help you.
Thank you. So what's the connection between productivity and the purpose when it comes to finishing a project like writing a book?
When you feel a sense of purpose, when you know your big why, when you know the meaning behind achieving a goal, you are more likely to be productive. I coach my clients to ask themselves about the tasks that they do during the day, or the activities they have during the day. Is this on purpose for me? Like, if this is my goal, right? Is this on purpose for me? If it's not, then it's probably something that's not productive, right? And so definitely the higher your sense of purpose, the greater your degree of productivity.
Thank you. Before we came on, before we started the show, you were telling me about people who constantly see themselves as aspiring authors, or they don't go past that point of aspiring to publish. And there are many women like that who struggle with that identity of, okay, I want to go past this stage of my life to becoming published. How important is identity in achieving that success? I know it might be part of this visualization we are talking about. I don't know. What's your perspective on that?
So I think identity is everything. The only thing between getting from here to there, from aspiring author to published author, is yourself. And that yourself, you, is your identity. What you believe about yourself. Whatever you believe about yourself is your identity. When you say, I'm not productive, I am someone who doesn't finish what I start, I'm an aspiring author, keeps you stuck there. An aspiring author is someone who aspires to be published, right? But if you're aspiring, then you're always aspiring. Like, that's who you are. And so as long as that's the case, you will keep doing the things an aspiring author does and thinking like an aspiring author. One day I'll be an author. Right. And so it's sort of a broken strategy, because what you're saying is, I will have authorship, right? I will have that status of being an author when I do the things that make me an author. So I'll hold the book in my hand. I'll hold my newest book in my hand. Hold the book in the hand, when I've done the things to make myself an author. But that's a backward strategy. You have to start with identity. So I am an author, or even I'm becoming an author, if that feels more comfortable. I'm becoming an author, and because of that, I take the actions, I do the things that produce the book. So you start with who you're being, and that leads to what you're doing, and then that leads to the result or the achieved goal. And so I believe that identity is everything. As soon as you shift your identity to I am an author, then you do the things and you think the things that an author would do, and that gets you the result. So instead of, it's the backward strategy is I'll have what I want when I do the things and become that type of person. I'm saying reverse that to be, do, have. I will be the type of person that does the things that gets the result.
Thank you. I believe in taking baby steps, and then some people just taking just one simple step can move them to action. What is the first practical step you would encourage someone who is just starting out to take this week so that it gives them the momentum that they need to push forward?
Are you talking in general or towards
No,
authorship?
in becoming, okay, let's focus on authors, as
Right.
we are already in along that line. So if someone is listening to this episode at this time and the person is saying, okay, I should write that book, I think I'm in the space where I can write that book right now, what is that first step that you should take? Because once you start moving, then everything becomes clearer.
Yeah, so that's a little bit difficult for me only because I believe that there are some things you should do before you start writing. That said, if you want to be an author, you need to write. Like, people say, I want to be a writer. Okay, so what do writers do? Writers write. So start writing. But from a much more practical and business perspective, I would say the first thing you need to do is plan your book.
Okay.
What's going to go in it? Like you said, who are the readers? If it's a children's book, what's the story? If it's a nonfiction book, what are the steps I'm wanting my writers to take? That sort of thing. So you need to know who you're writing for, who needs this book, like we talked about. And then you need to get clear on what the book will be, like what the storyline will be. There are people who write children's books and novels who we say they write by the seat of their pants, meaning they don't plan it. They just sit down and they write. In my experience, you then need a lot of editing. Like it takes a lot of revising. Whereas if you plan in advance what your story is and what the story arc is and what you want the reader to get out of the book, even if it's a children's book, what's the impact you want your story to have on the children? Or if it's a nonfiction book, how do you want to help the reader? What prescription are you giving them to whatever ails them, right? Then you can make sure that you actually achieve that goal. Otherwise, you may not. You may need to rewrite everything or the book won't do well. So to me, as an author coach and a book coach, that's where I start.
Thank you. So, I mean, this is so powerful because some people may think talent alone will get you to you where you need to be. Why talent is important? I think from our conversation today, commitment and structure is even more important. Know exactly what needs to be done before the talents even come into the play.
So there are writers who have no talent. They write because they have an idea and then they hire a very good editor to fix their writing. So when somebody says to me, I'm not a writer, but I want to write a book, I'll always say, then write the book and then hire probably more than one type of editor to help you make it readable. Right? But you don't have to have a lot of talent as a writer. You need a good idea, right? You need to have something to say, something to share. It's another negative thought that I'm not a good writer or I don't have the talent, right? We can develop talent. Look at the people who have no talent at something and then put in the 10,000 hours, as Malcolm Gladwell wrote about, and they become talented. I'm not saying you have to put in 10,000 hours, but it's a negative thought to think you don't have the talent or can't develop it. And if you have something to say and you want to write a book, then do the things that help you get that book into the world.
Thank you. So where can this audience find you?
So they can find me. The easiest place to find me is at ninaamir.com. So NINAAMIR.com. The information on writing and publishing is on my other site called writenonfictionnow.com. But if you go to ninaamir.com, there's a little tab at the top that you can click on that that says writing and publishing, I think. And so you can just go there and you can find out about that aspect of what I do.
Thank you very much. This has been an incredible conversation, Nina.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'd encourage everyone to check out my books. If you're wanting to write books, most of my books are about writing and publishing. And if you're wanting to write and create change in your readers' lives, then pick up a copy of my newest book, Change the World, One Book.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'll put the link in this episode's show notes. So to
Right.
everyone listening to this show, you are not too old, you are not behind, and your story still matters. You don't need to have all the talent that you need. You can still write your book, like Nina said, and you can get good editors to edit it so that they are readable. If this episode resonated with you and you want structure, accountability, step-by-step guidance to launch your first children's book in 90 days, I would love to support you inside my Bedtime to Bookshelf mentorship. We don't just dream, we build, we manage, we publish. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Minute Mastery podcast. If you have found this episode helpful, please share it to someone who could use more time in their day. And remember to subscribe. Check out the links in this episode show notes. Leave us a review. Until next time, you are in control of your time and you've got this. Remember, before we go, if it's not on your calendar, it won't get done.